Good? Okay. I'll get rolling here. Appreciate everyone coming out here today to talk about my decision in the officer-involved shooting from May 30th of this year with Grand Rapids Police. Eddie Deans Jr. Was killed by Officer Ben Howie. I will not be filing any charges in this incident. I know there's been a lot of video that's been out there already, but I think that's probably the best way to explain my decision and go over my reasoning towards the end, is kind of walk you through this incident from the inception and kind of explain what happened at the end and why I reached my decision that I did. So we start off, if you can go to the next slide, we start with the 911 call. This came in at about 1:16 in the afternoon to Grand Rapids Police Department. Go ahead.
Grand Rapids 911, where is your emergency?
It's 226 Alpine.
26 outside?
Yes,
Is that a house or an apartment?
it's a apartment.
What's the apartment number?
It's apartment, one.
Apartment 1, what's going on there?
My son said, the killer, we got a knife, trying to stab my other best son, and he said the killer, he said, y'all come here, he gonna kill himself, he gonna kill y'all or somebody. He in the house, we all sitting, we all like on the switch right now. He inside the house.
Okay, let me get a call up here.
Y'all go to the back in the front, cause he's talking loud in there now, so somebody come go to the back in the front. Yeah.
Okay, has anybody been injured?
No.
Okay, what is his name?
Eddie
Eddie Dean
Williams.
Williams. Eddie Dean Williams or Eddie Williams?
Williams.
Okay. Eddie Williams, I can say Eddie Williams.
Black.
What's the date of birth?
Probably,
What's the date of birth?
yeah.
Okay, I have officers on the way there, so this isn't slowing anything down. What is he wearing?
When they got from the grave,
What is he wearing?
he just short on.
What color is
You're saying, no, we got something out of line. In the bar, you know, fucking like, and say, young people, okay, they don't get you out of the house. They say a fucking word to me, you got out of the house. You got out of the house, I'm gonna walk, and that's what the fuck they do.
Hello?
You got a lot of lines in the head.
Hello?
Now you can see here from that clip that obviously this is a volatile situation, especially as it builds towards, as it goes along. He's obviously very agitated. She indicates, he's going to kill his cousin, he could kill his brother, he's going to kill the police if they show up there. She's got a lot of knives, so it's an extremely volatile situation. I thought it was important to note that that's what the police are aware of when they're walking into this situation, because dispatch is sharing this with the other officers. And next slide here, I'm kind of the more uneventful ones, but I want to use this for a timeline. So if this is a 1:16, the 911 call comes in, this is actually the first contact with family, the mother of Mr. Deans and some of the grandkids. Grand Rapids Police actually do not approach the home at all. If you can play it. You can see right now this is 13:24, so it's 1:24 p.m. They actually make first contact with the family when they cross the street. I kind of cut it short about this. So it's about 1:25 p.m. when the police make contact with the family, but they never go to the house. They don't really, it's not like they descend on the house, they get in the house. They're actually, this is probably about 4 to 5 houses down. You can see the family kind of there on the left walking down the sidewalk. But I use this to kind of give you a context to show you this is not, they're not going in there with a bunch of people at this point in time. They're essentially setting up a perimeter. They're setting up a perimeter to kind of contain it because this is a concerning 911 call, and they're trying to, slow walk this if you can. So that's what makes this next slide, and you've seen much of it already in terms of what happens next, is that he comes out, Mr. Deans, and we used Mr. Deans. She said Williams. He did change his name, but I went with Mr. Deans because that's what's on the autopsy. You can go to the next slide. So this is the molotov cocktail. We'll play this because this has already been out there, but clearly you can see the time once again. So 1:26, if they make contact, this is at 1:34. So it's under 10 minutes later that, once again, they haven't approached. They're in the alley behind the house. And you can kind of see, he kind of sticks his head out there underneath the carport, but then... So it's important, up to this point in time, nobody's made contact with the house, no officer's gone, knocked on the door, nobody's done anything. He's out in the carport, and that's his first reaction, is to come out and throw a Molotov cocktail at the officer. Okay, this is not, as you can see from that video, and you can go to the next one. I did the body cam from the actual officer here. The very next one, this is a body cam. He had plenty of opportunity to throw it actually at the car, maybe hit the hood of the car. He clearly doesn't do that. He throws it at the officer. If you can play it now.
I think that's when he walked out the back. He looked at me in the alley and walked back towards the house.
Hey, drop it!
And you can see the fires right essentially where the officer was standing, right there next to the car.
Back of the house, you just threw a Molotov cocktail at us.
You know, quite frankly, that was some restraint right there not to actually fire shots at that point in time, because somebody's actually throwing a lit Molotov cocktail with lighter fluid at the officer. So we have him threatening a felonious assault against his family. We have at least a felonious assault, if not an assault with intent to do great bodily harm at this point in time against the officer. So this is a volatile situation within the first 10 minutes of the officers being in the area, not even making contact with Mr. Deans. Mr. Deans reaching out and becoming violent towards them. He's already been in contact, violent towards his family members. So you can go to the next slide here. If you watch this, and I bring this up to kind of show you, they've got a perimeter. This, before you play it, this is actually a perimeter. They've got people. Oh, great. Got to plug in. There we go. So they've said this is the house is actually kind of the two. It'll be this house right here. You really can't see a whole lot, but obviously they're at least a couple houses down from him. Once again, nobody's approached, nobody's gone up to the door, but they're trying to yell to him, and you'll hear the response. Once again, he is not responding in a favorable manner. If you can go ahead and play.
Eddie, please come out here and talk to us. Kenny! Eddie Senior, can you please come over here? Eddie Senior!
Hey, Junior.
Shut the fuck up, you white bitch! Racist bitch!
Let's just go out there and talk to us.
Shut the fuck up! Don't you understand that?
Let's go over here and
Why
talk to
don't you
us.
shut the fuck up?
Now this gives you, once again, an idea of what's going on here in terms of the volatility of Mr. Deans during this point in time. He's yelling. He doesn't do this for the whole time, but you can see by the time, this is 1:45, so this is 10 minutes after the assault on the officer. He's still volatile. You hear him talk about Eddie Sr. His dad is still down there. Once again, the officers don't approach the house. At some point in time, they do go and remove Mr. Dean Sr., kind of walk him back, take him away from the scene because they're concerned about what his son may do at this point in time, and eventually other members of the house come out during this period of time. I tried to find some video. None of it, body cams are great, but they're limited. They did try and fire non-lethal rounds during this period of time. This goes on, you'll see from the next one, for about an hour in terms of while the police are outside. They have a 40 millimeter round. You'll see them a little bit later where they fire a millimeter round. I think they're essentially behind that red pickup truck and try and fire it at Mr. Deans to stun him, to hopefully approach him and defuse the situation. That did not work. He was not out the whole time yelling and screaming as he was there, but there's some other body cam videos that's very difficult to see where he actually comes out on the front porch with lighter fluid once again. So he's out there. He also goes to the back door and does the same thing. So they're trying to, they set up a perimeter. Obviously the perimeter didn't work exactly well, but they never approached, they never really get on the door or confront him in any way. They're trying to set up and trying to figure out a way how to approach. So the next video becomes important because this is the time he decides to flee the home. You can see once again, this is now 2:31, so they've been on scene for a little bit over an hour. It's been about an hour since he actually threw the Molotov cocktail. This is the best picture we have, and essentially what he does, and we'll try and zoom it in. We'll go through it one time here, and you can kind of see him by the white car, and then he runs across the street. It's very quick, and we'll slow it down.
Hey! Let me see your hand!
Back that up now and slow it down the best. We try and walk you through kind of by frame. Runs out the front door, goes directly across the street. You can initially see him right around this white car right here. He kind of goes out the white car and then goes essentially right across the street to the side yard. You can kind of go slowly. You can kind of see it right there. Yep. Just back it up. And it does give you an idea of limitation, because obviously the officers are seeing this much more, in size, where we're getting a very small view. But he runs right past that white car. Keep going. You see him right there, just kind of passing. And then he goes right through the side yard. And you just hit play now. And what he does, unfortunately, there's a car parked directly behind this house. There's a car parked, a family just happened to be going through the alley in the back. I think they actually stopped, the husband stopped to kind of see what was going on. And you can go in the next video here. There's an attempted carjacking. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. But this is essentially, he runs out the house. This is directly behind the house that he ran through. Go ahead and play. You can hear the screams of the wife as she gets out. From her statement to police, she says he gets in the car, says, "Give me the car." She sees he's armed with a knife. She thinks relatively quickly. She grabs the keys and jumps out, as you see here, and he gets out. He's carrying, people have described it as a cape. It's basically just a bed sheet that was actually left in the car. There's some photos afterwards where it's left in the car. I'm not quite sure what that was for or what he was doing with it. But that's, he obviously goes into a car now and tries to grab a car from a completely innocent bystander. So we have a carjacking for sure. Next slide, we were able to get some stills off of this. You can see quite clearly up in the right hand he's got a knife. You can see the one knife that he's got in his hand at this point in time. So he's armed as he's running across the neighborhoods now. You go to the next slide. So this takes place about a 5-minute, from the time he leaves the home to the time they found him on Whitcomb. It's about a 5-minute where there's a lot of officers, there's a lot of body cams. Number 2 was where the carjacking happened. Number 3, there were reports that he tried to actually break into a house. There's no video of that. But we have witnesses that say, yeah, he tried to go into a house, but was unsuccessful. And then just basically runs across backyards, alleys, and stuff as the police. There's a massive police presence. There's a lot of body cams, a lot of officers that responded over the scene during this point in time. And they finally found him in the backyard of Whitcomb. Go to the next slide. This gives you an idea. You can hold it right there. There's about 5 officers right side. There's confusion. There's where is he? They have a kind of a general area where he's at. You can't get, once again, a good view, but they clearly see him come between the fence of this backyard. And this is actually one of the officers who had a non-lethal round. Once again, there's 2 officers here that have non-lethal rounds of the 40 millimeter. And you'll see him to some extent in some videos, but we'll play the first one here. I play this just to give you an idea of the limitations sometimes of the body cam.
Right there! Take it dog!
And that, like I said, this is a non-lethal round. The view he had right there is another 40 millimeter, been described as kind of a cartridge, which is a half of a racquetball, shoots some dye. You'll see this in, but this is one of the non-lethal rounds. This is one of the officers who fires the non-lethal rounds. You go to the next slide then. This gives you a little bit better view. This is once again another non-lethal officer on scene. They had 2 of them.
We haven't believed that corner of
Talk. Right there!
You can see that green smoke. So there's 2 fires, so this is the 3rd time they've tried non-lethal rounds. The green puffs are kind of a way they use to kind of mark to see if they hit the target. Obviously, they did not hit Mr. Deans at any point in time, but they did attempt, and that's when the fatal rounds were fired after he came around the corner towards them. I think this is another one. The next slide is one that's been seen, but during this incident, this is the K-9 Diego. He was stabbed during this. I didn't put any pictures up, but he's got a stab wound just above his ear. He was taken, as you can see from the video, immediately to a veterinarian to provide care, but he was stabbed. It's really hard to see. It happened so quickly, but you can hear clearly his handler saying he was been stabbed and got him out of there, so you can play this.
Stop the dog! Off! 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 Get out of radio people! Kelly, he's stabbed! Move out!
So this, once again, is just another example of violence. Not like an officer is justified, quite frankly, because somebody stabbed a dog, that they can use deadly force to stab a dog, because a lot of people will be offended by this, but a dog is essentially property. It's no different than a police car. So that's not a justification to use deadly force, but what you have here is kind of a pattern of threatening somebody with a knife, then throwing a Molotov cocktail, to then now carjacking, to now they're stabbing another an animal, essentially, when confronted by kind of overwhelming force. There's at least 5 officers in this backyard at a time. He does not give himself up. They're clearly yelling at him to give himself up, but he does not do it. Dodges some non-lethal rounds. And then quite clearly you can see from that he comes around at the officers. You can do the next slide, please. This is just a still shot. He's actually got 2 knives at this point in time. There's a still shot. He's got one in the right and one in the left hand, so it's kind of escalated to some extent. He now has 2 knives instead of the first one. We had just had 1. We're not clear where that came from. Next slide. There are pictures of these knives. This is where after he was shot, they obviously removed the weapons from his presence and kind of threw them to the side. But these are 2 a close-up of what knives he had in his possession when he attacked the dog and when he came at the officers. So these are not it's not like butter knives or anything along those lines. And I think when you look at the statements from all the officers, they clearly saw these knives in the possession. So you can go to the next slide. This gives you a sign of a side view, if you will. This is one, I think it definitely shows him going towards it. There's actually a fence there. You really can't see this. It's a fenced-in yard. There's a chain link fence. He could have jumped it conceivably to continue to flee. We're not sure why he didn't. There's an officer there, obviously, with his gun drawn, but it also gives you a pretty good, clear example of him going towards the officers, coming underneath the stairway in the backyard to show you what was going on there. Play it one time, and we can even zoom in, I think. You can zoom that in maybe if you could, please. Kind of hard, but you can see him disappear behind the house, so he's definitely making motions toward the officers running towards him. And then finally we have Officer Howie's actual body cam. He's the officer that fired the fatal shots here. Gives you an idea of what he was viewing at this point in time. Go ahead.
Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Get down! Put your hands up! Put your hands up! Hands up! Hands up!
From the opinion, you can see there were 5 shots fired, 3 actually struck Mr. Deans. The fatal one was actually a strike to the head. He was probably killed instantly. But once again, you can see him coming around. They have done just about everything they could. They've chased him. This has been going on for approximately 5 to 6 minutes, where they've chased him across the backyards, and that's when the fatal shots were fired. Officer Howie has been essentially there since almost the beginning. He was aware of all this that had taken place. He was aware of the Molotov cocktail. He was aware of the 911 call. He was aware of the carjacking, because I think he was one of the officers that ran by just after the carjacking occurred. He saw the canine being stabbed. He saw, in his reports, he sees the knife. So under Michigan law, I mean, that's what you got to base this decision on. This is, what is it? Is it reasonable for somebody to use deadly force under these circumstances, looking at what the officer knew at the time? And I kind of probably get, bored reading my opinions because I cite the same law essentially, because the law hasn't changed. But under Michigan law, you have a right to use deadly force when the circumstances present a person of reasonable caution that they feel it is necessary. It was necessary, and whether it be the defense of himself or the defense of others, fellow officers, across the board, they all saw him coming around the corner armed with the knives. They were aware of what was going on. There's just no way forward to proceed to file any sort of charges. The self-defense law, once again, we have to prove self-defense beyond a reasonable doubt. I just don't. There's no way a jury could, we can convince a jury that this was not a reasonable amount of force given the totality of the circumstances as we have to present. So that is the basis for not filing any charges in this matter. It's probably the second one within the year in terms of, I think there's a mental health issue. If you look at the toxicology reports, I mentioned that in my opinion, there's nothing really found toxicology-wise in his system. No drugs, no alcohol. I think his mom refers to he's got mental health issues. Mental health issues, yeah, we'd like to do everything we can to help him, and I think Kent County is extremely fortunate in this, the ability we have. We have Pine Rest, we have Forest View, we have the Crisis Center, we have officers doing crisis intervention training, so we are well equipped, better than most, to respond. But the fact that somebody's going through a mental health crisis does not make them any less dangerous. And he's kind of demonstrated, Mr. Deans has demonstrated this through this whole incident, through this, over an hour of going on and on. I wish, this could have ended differently, but the fact is he was dangerous, he was attacking a number of individuals, and the fact he was killed, probably engaged in another attack going after officers, I just can't see a way forward to file any charges. So that's why I made my decision. You obviously have your opinions there, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Without the cumulative effect of all of these, just that move, a lot of people are going to focus in on the moment of death. If it was just officers in the backyard and he makes that type of move, I know it's dealing in hypotheticals, but
It's very difficult because, okay, just that move, but is he armed with two knives at that point in time? I mean, that could be enough in itself. I can't say for sure. You've got to base it on all the totality of the circumstance. You just can't say one thing and say, okay, we're going to look at it in isolation. You have to look at everything under the law, and that's what I have to do my analysis on. So it's really hard to say, well, just based on one thing, would I have, would I have not have. It's really hard to tell. These are, I try and do these opinions to explain my reasoning because every case is different. There's facts and circumstances every case that are different. So that's hard. I mean, that's really hard. I had to base this on everything we saw here, and that's why I went through this whole procedure to kind of give you a flavor of what I think was going on there and why I made the decision.
The initial 911 call, did you say that was from the family?
That was family. It was his mother. You can kind of hear it. It's 1:16 p.m. Yep, it was his family kind of calling, saying obviously he was having an issue. I think it was something about other family members he was angry with. Not quite sure, not quite clear why. But there's a number of individuals in that house that the police were concerned with, and that's why they didn't kind of rush in. They kind of slow walk this to hopefully not have this ending. But unfortunately, that's what happened.
This is the second GRPD this year, and there's been a number, a dozen of the last 4 or 5. Most of them end with no charges. Do you have words for the community that might be growing frustrated? Each one is soundly reasoned, but that doesn't change the emotion of this.
Yeah, I fully understand the emotions, and I wish I wouldn't have to deal with it. I mean, I've had to deal with it, I think, probably more than my fair share in terms of, officer-involved shootings. And I really do try and take it, I take this seriously. It's not like, this is an easy one to clear. I mean, obviously this happened back on May 30th, and here we are July 15th or whatever it is. So I look at all the body cams. We look at all the body cams. Am I making the right decision? But I have to look at the law and not just emotionally what the community feels. I think based on trying to be as transparent as I can in terms of showing why this happened, and hopefully people say, okay, it makes sense because of going through all this, the totality of the circumstances. But I can understand the frustration. I hear it too. But clearly it's not something that I take lightly. But I have to base it on the law and what the facts are, and that's every decision. And if I have another one, I'll treat it the exact same way. The fact is, the law very often is, what it is. The facts and circumstances support the use of deadly force. And, we can't get around that no matter how people feel emotionally.
Chris, is it a tough decision to make? I mean, is it a big toll on your office to go through these?
No question. There's no question it's a tough decision to make. We obviously have a person that's dead, and it's a family. I have no The family, I know, I saw one of the news reports, the moms feel horrible that she calls the police and the son ends up dead. And I feel for that. I understand this is a death. We take every death seriously. So yeah, this is traumatic for everybody involved. But you have to kind of try to remove the emotions as much as you can and base it on what the facts are and what the law is, and trying to make that analysis and take it whichever way it goes. And most of the time it does take me this way, and in other cases we haven't, and we have charged. So, but it's a toll, and it's something I prefer not to go through. But if I have to, that's why I'm here. That's what the job entails.
Was this officer involved in any previous?
Not to my knowledge, no.
You remember a time before body cameras? How big of a help is it to have all these angles?
I think it is. You kind of see the limitations that there are, but definitely, with witnesses, you're basing a lot on witness statements, and there's always that question now. Now you can throw it out there and say, hey, this is what they saw, and best to recreate it as best you can. So I think the body cameras are, and even you saw the doorbell camera. I mean, you can't ignore the fact that the doorbell camera has in terms of seeing that, carjacking, because we didn't see that on any of the body cameras. That was a doorbell camera. So the videos are tremendously helpful in making these decisions. On the other hand, it is a little bit more difficult for us as an office because that's what the jurors are expecting. There's a lot of people out there that are mistrustful of what witnesses see, what they say they saw, and they expect videos in every case. So on the other hand, sometimes it's making it more difficult for trials for anything, not just officers involved shootings, because people expect, they want to see. Otherwise, there's a reasonable doubt because it wasn't on video. And so, it's kind of a double edge on what that is. But for these cases, I think it is tremendously helpful.
Are there lesser consequences that are possible rather than charging, with murder, manslaughter for these officers, civil penalties, ways to hold them accountable, removal of license? I know that might not be your office that deals with that. But
Yeah, I mean, anybody can be sued. I mean, that's up to the family member. There's always a civil, if there's some sort of, but I think, especially when there's a death, generally if there's something, if there's liability, that would be generally criminally would jump in. There's, manslaughter is a lesser included charge of murder, for that is something done in the heat of passion. So, if there's something there, I think especially when there's a death, I think there would be something criminal. But that wouldn't prevent, a family from suing. MCOLS does, offer certifications, but I think that's very governed by, they have the same analysis as we do. They're not going to do anything different just because, it's not a criminal charge that we're going to hold the officer liable. At least I'm not aware of that. I suppose it's possible, but I'd be very surprised if that happened.
Last month, GRPD said that the canine that was stabbed was expected to recover but might not return to work. Do you know if
I know expect to recover as far as I know. Whether we return to work, I do not know.
you did say about the canine that it amounts to property rather than assault on an officer.
Correct.
I think people will be surprised by that. Can you clarify that they do not count as a uniformed police officer?
They're not an they can, essentially it's a tool, if you will. So we've had that. There was a Kenwood incident a few years back that it's not just, that you can treat them, it's different than a human life. I know everybody, cares for their pets, and, there are certain charges you could do, but it's not just a justification, use deadly force because somebody's using deadly force against a canine. That's not a simple justification, and, Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.